What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. So glad you guys can come and hang out with me today. So today's video is pre-recorded. Sorry. I thought we were doing live now. Yeah, well, yeah. So doing pre-recorded today. No big deal. Sorry. Don't worry though, because we've got some big news and some big stuff coming this weekend, but the reason that I have to pre-record this is because I had a whole lot of things going on with my 3D printer to get ready for this weekend's stream. I'm not sure if it's going to be Saturday or Sunday offhand just yet, but I'll let you guys know on Twitter and the other places. Yeah, all those things. So I had to do some upgrades to my 3D printer, and I say I had to, as I mentioned in the last video. You don't print with a 3D printer, you upgrade the 3D printer, and then you don't print with it, right? And so I printed off the first bit of the prototype, right? And then I decided it needed an upgrade. So I upgraded my 3D printer, or I bought all the parts, I went to put them on, and then I realized that that the original bracket for it was not going to fit, and the bracket that came with the new X axis linear rail also was not going to fit my direct drive, so I had to design and make one. So that kind of is what it is. No big deal there. But I want to get into today's video and let you guys kind of check it out and all that good stuff. And so we'll jump into that video right now and show you guys kind of what's going on. What I did, or I guess where I started, was I wanted to start working on the power supply, for the Xbox. That's it. That's what I'm talking about. So without further ado, I guess getting right into it. The first thing that we were going to do, obviously I'd left a mess on my bench, and I went ahead and sped this video up because instead of it being 45 minutes long and then you guys being trapped into another several hour long video, I thought, you know, I could just send it and shorten everything up and make it a little bit easier for you guys to deal with. And so starting right off, the very first thing that we're going to do is I got all the caps out, got them lined up to where they could be a little bit more helpful for you guys, or I guess not for you guys, for me guys, for me, so I could see what was going on just a little bit better. The very first one that we went after is going to be the biggest one of the bunch. That one can be just a little bit frustrating and aggravating. And of course, you know, before I dove into that, this power supply was a little bit dusty. I mean, the thing worked, and I didn't see any vented caps anywhere on it, but it worked. However, since we're in there and we intend on taking this and putting it back in its original box from Microsoft, which I'm gonna have to 3D print some supports for it to sit in there anyway. Since we're going to be doing that, I wanted to go ahead and recap it just because I thought it prudent that we recap it so that we can never use it. It'll be awesome. It'll be great. So at any rate, getting everything all ready to go and cleaned up, and one thing I'll tell you is if you ever have to deal with one of these, fighting with the cords that are on it are a bit of a pain in the butt. They really can be. So I switched back over to the mobile cam here, just to kind of make sure my angle was right. Removing this big guy, he's on such a big ground plane that removing him at all is a little bit tricky. So I went and added in some of the leaded solder that I like to use. It's Kester 6040, but it just makes removing them or getting the solder to flow a little bit easier. I will tell you this, if you guys buy this kit from Console 5, it comes with the correct size capacitor. The legs on mine were a little bit bent, probably if I had to guess from shipping. And the layout of the legs from Microsoft are kind of off at it. They're both slanted at an angle. They're not straight up and down or straight side to side. So you're gonna probably fight with them a little bit. Sorry, that's just, you're just gonna have to fight with them. No real big trick to that. I will also tell you, sorry about the video in the mobile cam. I do fix it later on in this video. I noticed just how god-awful bright it was. I'm still fighting lighting issues a little bit in this room. My lighting's gotten a lot better. My cameras have gotten significantly better, and I've got a lot more control over them, but I'm still kind of fighting that gamma a little bit, the total amount of output, but I think I adjusted here. There you go. Isn't that so much better? Yeah, that's much better. So moving right along, you are gonna have to deal with quite a bit of this Celastic, this white goopy stuff that you see. Microsoft spec'd that to go in, and most manufacturers of power supplies especially do spec that. You'll see it a lot in high-end audio receivers or audio receivers period. But what that goop does is it's kind of like hot glue, except for it's a lot longer lasting, and it just keeps components in place from kind of getting shifted or jolted around and everything. It's not really a big deal to remove it, but you do want to be a little careful. You can see some of the techniques I use in here. Always just move it a little bit at a time and kind of push it out of the way. If you can get a hold of it and break it free without, snatching or jerking, that's fine. A little bit of isopropyl goes a long way as well. So you can actually drop a little isopropyl in and let it work in, and it will loosen up that bond that you've got on there. So keep that in mind as we move along. We're going to replace a couple of more capacitors here. These are on the main power side, the 120 or 220 volt side if you're across the pond or in Canada or in Mexico. Yeah, US being one of the only places that uses 110 volts. But yeah, so working on that side of things, the only bit of advice I'm going to give you once you're working on the back side of that, where the mains voltage is make sure that everything is properly discharged. A good way to do that, a great way to do it, is to plug up the big connectors, I think it's a 12-pin connector, to the board, and hold the power button down on it for a few seconds without it being plugged into mains power. That will pull any electrons through the board and dispel them, get rid of the little angry pixies before they get a chance to shock you. Another thing you can do, but I don't recommend, is short that big capacitor. Just make sure if you're going to short it using a screwdriver, you have a hold of the insulated side of the screwdriver, not the metal side. You could get a little zap. So moving from there kind of up to the non-power, I say the non-power, the non's main power, the 12 volt side, we find a lot more of the Celastic on this side, and fighting around some of those heat sinks, especially the one that I'm working on right now, I think, is a pain. Getting the old capacitors out is a pain, getting the new capacitors in is a pain. Just, take your time, go nice and slow, and you'll get there. It just takes a few minutes. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Nice and slow and steady wins the race. Also, we'll give you a little word of advice here when you're dealing with power supplies specifically, but really anything. Be careful on a power supply and double check all of your solder joints and make sure you don't bridge anything. The bottom of the OG Xbox's power supply, you've got a lot of legs that are extremely close on your capacitors, and you'll have that with your transformers too. and they're really close to, power legs are really close to ground planes, and I think there's a couple of spots in here where power actually comes directly through in the middle of a ground plane and then jumps somewhere else. So it's real easy to bridge. Just go slow, take your time, and pay real close attention. Double check everything once you're done. Making sure that you're not leaving any of those bridges or shorts anywhere on that. You certainly would not want to in any way. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I'm sitting back here listening to my laptop scream away in pain over here as I'm screen recording in OBS and I'm editing this in Shotcut. Shotcut is a bit of a memory hog anyway, and a resource hog, and OBS can be a bit of a resource hog as well. So they're kind of pushing it. I don't know. Let's see here. Let me see if I can aggravate it a little bit more. Pop up in Task Manager and see what we're doing. Yeah, CPU's pegged at 100%. That's awesome. GPU's only at 24, and holy cow, I really expected to be using more memory than that. We're only using about 8 of our 64 gigs. But our CPU is pegged. It's maxed out right now. That's awesome. I guess it's overworking. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It's 11th gen i7. Going after the last few of these, just kind of working them in. Again, this is some of these, the kits you get from Console 5, the legs are pre-bent and they don't like to fit in there. I always recommend a pair of needle nose pliers to flatten those out if at all possible. Flattening them out will make a huge difference in your ability to get them in. And of course, our online best service toothbrush in quite good fashion these days. I think I broke out a brand new one at the beginning of recording this because the other one was just kind of janky looking, especially after I had gone after some resin 3D printed parts with it. That was probably not any good at all, and I didn't want to spread that around. For those of you guys that are into 3D printing or do 3D printing, of course, or those that don't, resin, 3D printed resin is extraordinarily bad for you. It really is. I mean, you can make some amazing parts, and there's a lot of people that do models and things like that. It's really cool, but I use it mostly for consoles or for making parts for my 3D printers because they take heat a lot better than standard PLA, regular plastic with filament spools and stuff like that. The resin tends to take that abuse and the shock and the heat and stuff like that a little bit better. So. Yeah, I believe we're down to the last 1 or 2 of these guys, which is fantastic. It's great. Just making sure you get those in. I know that I ran into a ground plane bridge here somewhere. I'm not sure, but it may have been on this one that I had to go back and really look at it. Yep, may have been on this one. Yeah. I think we ended up okay on it. Also, whenever you're removing new or old old solder, putting some new flux down will help any impurities. A lot of times with solder, impurities will build up on the face of it, and it makes it harder to wet that joint, get it heated back up, and those impurities, when you do sink down into the solder, you know, and they will cause it to be more difficult to flow, which you definitely don't want. So, you know, using a little bit of Flux will clean that top surface, and then using a little bit of fresh solder will also help that flow a little bit. This one that's right underneath that heat sink is a real nightmare to get in to position properly, but I think that's that one, or maybe one more, might be the very last one that we do. And then before we go today, I do want to flip over and show you guys the progress that I've made on Tinkercad with the prototype of the prototype of the prototype. All right, guys, we're back. So without further ado, I guess let me, it's still loading over there. This has turned into an absolute monster of a thing in Tinkercad, and it takes it a second to get ready. But let me, we'll switch over here real quick, put this on the big screen for you guys so y'all can see what's going on with it. So I did finish the front plate, never mind the fact that this is presently blue. This part right here, it should be gray, but it may just be taking a second to load. So I did that, and then I also, it's probably, I don't know if you can see down at the bottom, it's still showing loading, so we may just have to give it a second. There it goes. Okay. So I did also finish up the faceplate of it. And if you guys can see these orange guys, those are gonna be our connectors that's gonna lock the face in, or bolt the faceplate in. There is a ridge. I know that you really can't see it, but this little line right here, there's a ridge that's gonna inset on the inside of this guy to kind of get it perfectly in place. And then for our center jewel, if you guys can see those little crossbars back behind it, those will actually be printed as part of, I don't know, I haven't figured that out yet. But that's what's gonna keep the jewel set out. So you can kind of see a little bit behind it. And that little bit you see behind it, we're gonna get some airflow through there. Also, I basically cut the entire thing in half and made these fins and vents on the back side of it, which the original prototype had. And I was thinking about it, and so I ended up making all of these little screw holes. So it's gonna take a whack ton of screws to assemble this guy, but doing it this way will actually make it easier to assemble. And on top of that, if I can grab a hold to the board and all of this and move that out of the way in one shot, what I ended up doing is making the back plate, okay? If you see, I made it to where it attaches, and it will be 4 pieces, but each one of these 4 pieces, this bottom piece especially, already has these parts, the supports, pre-built into them, versus them being in any way attached to the front. What is going to strengthen this up are going to be all of these little holes going all the way around, and then also our motherboard mounts. I'm going to have to figure out something for the back of the DVD drive to hold him in, and I still don't know. I'm probably going to end up countersinking a couple of holes here for our hard disk drive, but I'm not sure yet. Now, once we stick this guy back in place, come on, somewhere in there, yeah. Once we do that, I left enough room intentionally to add a fan here, and to add a fan up here or down here if I needed it. I'm not sure that I will, but we'll see. At any rate, I kind of wanted to show that guy off and let you guys know. I'm going to start printing him today. Hopefully we'll have some finished pieces, maybe with any luck by Sunday or Saturday, at which point we can start rough assembling this guy then, which I think would be pretty cool. So, at any rate, I just wanted to show you guys that, and we're gonna flip back over to the main cam. Hey guys, that's pretty much where I'm gonna wrap the video up today. I really appreciate you guys coming and hanging out watching this video. I appreciate all the love that you guys have been sending me. on Facebook and the Twitter universe and everybody else, man. It's amazing. We're gonna make this thing, get it done, and see what happens with it. At any rate, I'm gonna get out of here, you guys. We'll see you in a couple of days. Thanks for watching. See you guys on the next one.